Whittling is a pastime that's enjoyed by a lot of people. I enjoy it. I love making little doodads and carving other things. And I like having a pocket knife that I can have with me that's got the right kind of blades to do whittling. And so I'm going to put some different knives on the bench here that I've used, and you can kind of see what I use for whittling. See if it'll maybe help you find a knife that works for you. So today, it's all about whittling. Before we get started, if you would please click on the like and subscribe buttons, and let's get started. Well, let's talk a little bit about whittling. I love making little doodads and some kind of nonsensical things. Sometimes I like to get a little bit more creative, more serious maybe. And the thing that really kind of got me started in whittling actually was something much more challenging. I used to make some musical, and I still do when I can, make musical instruments. I'm kind of zoomed in kind of tight here, but let's see if we can come out a little bit. So this is a little pocket violin that I made, and I wanted, instead of a scroll, to do something that was a little bit different. So here I've carved an eagle's head on the top of this little violin, and so this was one of the first kind of complicated things I tried carving. Didn't turn out too bad. And then I had an idea to make a, well, it's strung like a viola, but it's actually styled after a 16th century viol. Some really pretty curly maple. And instead of a scroll, I did a snake's head made of bone, or made of maple. It's got a fangs made of bone and a tongue made of a wood called paduk that's kind of red. And so these were just some things that I kind of got me started carving. And actually on this instrument, though I didn't use a pocket knife, I carved my own pegs, made my own tailpiece. One thing I didn't make were the strings and the bridge. Everything else, even the fingerboard, all carved out of different kinds of wood. Anyway, making musical instruments is kind of what got me started seriously looking at wood carving and whittling. And so trying to get started on that path, I've tried a lot of different knives. And whittling kind of falls into two camps. You've got the take a big stick and make it a little stick kind of people, and then you've got people that actually want to carve something maybe a bit more intricate. And so it's, instead of just whittling, maybe it actually starts to get into wood carving. And to get started, you can use really any kind of pocket knife, any little two-bladed pocket knife like this Barlow. Something like this little two-bladed Uncle Henry would be good. And this one actually is kind of good in that, and it wasn't me, but somebody ground this pin blade almost to straight edge. And that actually makes it a really good whittling blade, as it were. You'll see people that do this to Swiss Army knives, modify the Swiss Army knives to have a blade like this. They do it intentionally. But, you can start with really any kind of pocket knife. You don't have to have anything fancy. And I did some of that, I tried a bunch of different ones. A Stockman's not too bad of a knife in that you've got this sheep's foot blade. One thing about whittling knives is having a blade with a straight edge, shaped like this, or a horncliffe, or a coping blade is really handy for doing detail work. And so Stockman's got that. Unfortunately, the Spey blade's not a great whittling blade. Sometimes you can find Stockmans that have that third blade is a pin blade, and if you can find that, then that's really helpful. So I've tried, like, this is an electrician's knife, the old Camillus version of the military TL29, and I tried shortening the screwdriver blade and turning it into a little horncliffe blade here. And it works fairly well. The springs in this thing are crazy. I need to work on the edge geometry some. It just doesn't bite into wood like I'd like it to, so I'm going to have to play with that a little bit, but that kind of works, but still didn't really do it for me. And then I stumbled upon this. And this is a FlexCut Tri-Jack Pro. Now FlexCut makes a whole line of these whittle and jack knives. This one has a large horncliffe blade. And these are all liner locks, all three blades are, which is kind of cool. And then a little bit smaller one, and then a really small one, And all of these blades are the spring steel that FlexCut uses for their wood carving chisels. If you've ever done any wood carving using FlexCut's wood carving chisels, these things have a very acute edge. I mean, they're kind of like a Scandi grind. They go, you know, the bevel all the way to the edge, and the metal's pretty thin, and so the edges on these things are just really acute. But this is spring steel. It's not overly hardened, but these things just slice through wood. It's pretty cool. You can take a piece of wood and these things just bite in and just slice really well. Great for wood carving. And so if you're looking for a knife that you can use for whittling, these are really nice. Now, they're a little bulky, and so fitting one of these in your pocket, carrying it around all the time is probably not the best thing. And I wouldn't probably try to use this for an EDC knife, but if you're, you know, just whittling, these are great. Now, I like throwing these in a day pack or something, or if I'm going somewhere I can throw it in my kit and have it with me, then they're wonderful. But it's just a little bulky to carry around all the time, and I don't know, it just seems kind of weird for an EDC knife, so I just don't use it for that. The next thing I kind of came across actually at an antique flea market was this little Boker Whittler. And the Boker Whittler is kind of a unique knife, and you've got a clip blade, and then you've got a coping blade, which is that kind of blade that we're talking about that works really well for detail, and then you've got a small pin blade. And this knife works really well. Now these are, let's see if I can get this to focus a little closer here. These are really unique in that you've got two blades on one end, and they each have their own spring. And then as you get to this end, both springs come together and work as one spring for the main clip blade. So it's kind of a unique design. The two springs that are separate, you know, one side for each blade here, come together and become one spring for the clip point. Interesting design. Of course, Boker makes, this is a Solingen, Germany made Boker. They make really nice knives, beautifully made. I bought this at an antique flea market. It was a little bit rusty, so I cleaned it up. Wasn't too bad. Paid $12 for it, and it really works well. These this coping blade just works really good for getting into small places to do detail. You know, you could probably even do chip carving with it if you wanted to. It just is great for a little detail, and so the combination of blades on this is just really awesome. And so I really like this knife. It has worked real well for me. The only thing I have a gripe about it is just a little skinny. It's a little small in the hand, maybe. But it's, you know, other than that, it works quite well. I wish maybe these blades were a tiny bit bigger, just a tiny bit more robust, but I haven't had any problem. They work well. And the next one, I've had so many people tell me I need to try a Rough Rider knife, and I haven't really gone down that road. But I saw this, and it was really inexpensive, and it's a whittler. Now, Rough Rider makes a bunch of different whittlers, and I was attracted to this one. Now, unfortunately, this is a RR375 is the part number. It's discontinued, but it has the same combination of blades. It's got a pin blade, it's got a coping blade, and the main blade in this case is a spear point. But the actual cutting edge isn't really that much different from a clip point. Matter of fact, if you were to grind a little cutout here, you could make that a clip point pretty easily. Anyway, this knife has been pretty good. It's stainless steel. It's 440, 440A, not 440C, but still 440A has, I think it's 0.7 to 0.8% carbon plus the chromium. It seems to be holding an edge really well. I haven't really felt like I was going to have to sharpen it unduly, and so I'm kind of enjoying it. It's a little fatter, a little shorter than the Boker, but it's a little fatter, and I can seem to hang on to it well. My only real complaint, I mean, the knife is really well made. I'm really impressed with the job that Rough Rider does. This is you know, their amber bone stag. I don't know if it's really bone or not, but it really looks nice. The pin blade and the coping blade are just super thin. If I can get this thing to focus that close, look how thin those blades are. It's just almost scary. They're a little flexible even, which is a bit worrisome. And I feel like at some point, if I'm not careful, I might break one off.
I mean, that hadn't been the case. I've tried doing some whittling. The coping actually is a little stiffer than the pin. But those blades are, I don't know, I wish they'd made these just a wee bit thicker. That's just really thin. You see I get it down here where it's focused. Or maybe get it up here and make it focus. But it's just, they could have given that a little bit more meat. I would have been happier. Anyway, so this is a kind of nice knife. Like I say, this is the first Ruff Rider I've purchased. It is made in China, but it seems well made and seems to perform quite well. So this whittler pattern, whether you can find a Boker or this, seems to be really nice. Now, Ruff Rider has another knife that has the same pattern of blades as this Boker, and it's called a swell center. It actually gets wide in the middle and narrower at the ends. And it's more expensive. It's, I paid like less than $20 for this. The swell center has D2 steel for the blades, and it's about $45. I'll put links in the description for a bunch of different knives that you could choose that are similar to some of these. Boker catalogs this knife still, but it's not available because they're reintroducing it in D2 steel. They'll have it out soon, but it's currently not available. There's also a couple other versions of whittlers from Ruff Rider. Like I say, this one is discontinued. There's only a few left on Amazon that I saw. But there's some others that they're a little bit different in that they have a clip point and then like a mini clip point and a pin blade, which the mini clip point to me doesn't make much sense. But, if it works for you, then there's nothing wrong with them. But they have several versions of whittlers. And so I've been real happy with those. And then I found this at a flea market, and it was in really rough shape. I've got a video about what I had to do to clean this up, and I'll link it below. But this is a Boker Congress. Now the Congress is unique in that it has two identical sheep's foot blades. Plus, it has a pin blade, and it has a coping blade. And these are a little bit bigger, a little bit more robust, about the size I wish the Boker Whittler had. And the Congress is a unique design, kind of sway backed and a little bit bigger. I like the, more or less the width of my palm. It's a little beefier, so it's a little easier to hang on to when I'm using it, and it's comfortable. So I really like this for whittling. Now this knife was, the Congress was introduced in the the early 1800s, and it was very popular with tobacco and cotton farmers. There was something that the farmers used these for that required the use of the bigger sheep's foot blade, and they used them frequently enough that the reason this knife has two identical blades is that meant you could work twice as long without having to stop to sharpen. So it was a specially designed knife, but it also became really popular with people in the South, especially because they like to sit around and whittle in the evenings. And all of these blades are really good designs for whittling. That's called a Congress because both sides are supposed to come together. Think we could get our Congress to do that? That'd be nice. But that's why it's called a Congress, because both sides are supposed to come together. So anyway, this Congress has been a really great knife. I've really enjoyed using it. Cuts well. This one was made in the 30s, before World War II, and I haven't really seen any others like this one. I'm sure there's more out there, but this actually has 3 rings on the bolsters. They're nickel silver. The blades, of course, are carbon steel, and they hold an edge really well. And made in Solingen, Germany. Now, Case has a small Congress that's narrower, it's thinner, and I'm not sure the length of the blades, but it's skinnier overall. And so I kind of looked at that, and it didn't really look that attractive. Boker still makes a Congress very similar to this. It is made in China, however. Now, I haven't seen one, so I'm not sure what they really look like. I can link that in the description below also if you want to take a look at one online. And Ruff Rider has several versions of Congress. Some of theirs have a like a spear point blade on the one side and the sheep's foot on the other. And then they have some versions that have both 2 sheep's foot. And of course, like Ruff Rider, they have all kinds of different scale, the handle combinations. So if you're thinking about one of those might not be bad either. I wish Boker would bring out a German-made Congress with maybe D2 steel. I'd get in line for that. But Anyway, so that's my my whittling stuff here. I've really been happy finding this little Congress. It is kind of my go-to whittling knife right now. I do still like this flex cut. It's look at the size difference. It's kind of big, and this is a good size pocket knife. It's just kind of big. So if you can find one, a Congress is a really good choice.
Well, that's my whittling knife journey, and finally found some knives that I really like, and so I really enjoy using them. I hope some of that was helpful for you, and maybe it'll help you find a good whittling knife for you. If you have any thoughts or questions, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment. I always love hearing from you. And as always, thanks for watching.